we start out on a little bit more of a somber note. Steelers quarterback Dwayne Haskins dies 24 years old after getting hit by a truck down in South Florida. He was there in South Florida with a lot of his Steelers teammates training in the offseason. Ike, really, really sad news. I wanted to get your takeaway right off the top on this news about Dwayne Haskins.
Man, I wound up tweeting, I never met the kid, but once you get into the 412, and that's Pittsburgh area code, once you go on the south side, Carson Street, at the facility, and you put on that black and gold, you're just part of the family. But to hear this at 24 years old, because I was down in that area at the time, to hear this at 24 years old, and just to be so young, for me, had a promising future. He was in a quarterback battle position, even though they picked up Mitchell Trubisky. But I got to feel a lot of prayers to Haskins and his family, but a lot of prayers to the Pittsburgh Steelers Nation as well. A lot of prayers to Mitchell Trubisky as well, because they was down there working out with him. He wanted to bond in jail with his newly found teammates, and this happened early in the morning. So my thoughts and my prayers go out to the Haskins family, let alone the Pittsburgh Steelers Nation as well. It's just so sad to hear. 24 years old, Mark, he was just a baby. Life just getting started. So we lost a good one on earth. We gained another angel. That's how I look at it. It's just sad to hear.
Yeah, like I said, down in South Florida, pretty much every Steelers skill position player was there other than Deontay Johnson. So I'm just going to list you through the names of the Steelers teammates that were there. And I think it's pretty cool that they were all working out together. You had Trubisky down there, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, Chase Claypool, Kendrick Green, Anthony Miller, Steven Sims, Haskins, obviously, Gunner, whose last name I'll continue to mispronounce, the new offseason signing, Cody White, Benny Snell Jr., and Zach Gentry. So it's not as if that was the first question is, what's he doing down there and everything? And it popped up on Instagram and I'm like, oh, okay. An area we're familiar with, Ike. I lived in Florida for 5 years. You still live in Orlando. I Bleav they were in Boca Raton, which is just north of Fort Lauderdale, which is also north of Miami. And great place to be, especially given this time of year. You've got the warm weather and everything. And a young player trying to improve his craft, get right in the league, someone who was a first-round pick out of Ohio State as well, and someone whose best football was still ahead of him as well. The moment that he was, supposed to have in this league as a first-round pick, in my opinion, hadn't happened yet. And you're talking about a player who had excellent talent because, again, he was a first-round draft pick. He's also a Heisman Trophy finalist when he played for the Buckeyes as well. And you find out this news, 24 years old, like Ike, this was not just, national news, international news when the news broke about what happened.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of, I ain't gonna say it's shocking, Mark. I'm still trying to gather my thoughts. I had a neighbor in my neighborhood. We've never talked. He was riding his bike and the first thing he did was stop and talk to me about this situation because, he's an Ohio State alum. So it's hitting everybody, Mark. Not only me, not only Steeler Nation, Ohio State Nation, but just a lot of people in general because he actually he's a big boost over there for Ohio State. So he met him a few times, Dwayne Haskins. He met him a few times. And he was just saying how good of a kid he was. Then just listening to Coach Tomlin, not even Coach Tomlin, his teammates, say the same thing about a young man or how good of a kid he was. Very helpful in the community, Mark, at a young age. So he finally got it. I think he was turning the corner when it came down to the maturity level on what it is to be a franchise quarterback or what it takes to be a professional. Like I say, Mark, it's just so sad to hear around this time.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder what could have been. I go back to what Ben Roethlisberger said about Haskins during, I Bleav it was training camp last year when he said he can throw the ball through a car wash without it getting wet. And how many other quarterbacks could you say that about just in terms of pure arm talent? So that's what I think of, Ike, when I think of what could have been with Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, that's a heck of an analogy, Mark.
Yeah.
And Big Ben don't throw compliments out either. So for him to say that says a lot about how he felt about Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah. And this also comes on the heels of, receivers coach Daryl Drake dying ahead of the 2019 season too. I do think it was critical with Haskins for him to get out of Washington. And, he had his slip ups there and everything too. But again, I'm going to go back to what you said, steal your words. I do think he was turning the corner and understanding what it means to be a professional, understanding what it means to be a quarterback, the CEO, potentially the face of a franchise. And I think he was starting to get that with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was excited to see him compete with Trubisky and with Mason Rudolph this upcoming season, because that's one of the biggest questions we have going into the 2022 season is what the Steelers are going to do at the quarterback position now that Ben Roethlisberger is retired. And I was really looking forward to see Haskins in that mix to see what can he do, because again, I go back to that first round talent and I hear Ben Roethlisberger's words. Like, you always tell me, listen to what the players say. And when a player like a future Hall of Famer, Ben Roethlisberger, is saying, hey, this guy has a better arm than me, I immediately perk up. I immediately say, okay, I want to see what this guy can do.
Yeah, it was more, for me, I always listen to the players because obviously I once was a player. But, yeah, it's just tough, bro. Yeah. It's tough right now for a lot of people. So, again, man, just a lot of prayers to the Haskins, Steeler Nation, Ohio State Nation, just in the football world in general, to that family.
One last point, Ike, before we get into our top receivers of the 2022 draft. The Steelers now will need a quarterback as well, because Josh Dobbs is signed with the Cleveland Browns. And so you've got Trubisky, you've got Mason Rudolph under contracts. I know that the Steelers might have gone and drafted a quarterback even with Haskins on the roster with 3, but now it's evident the Steelers will need somebody to be, whether it's maybe a starter, backup, third stringer. You've got to have 3, just because you only have 2. It's a next man up league. So keep an eye out on that as we get closer and closer to the first round of the 2022 draft.